Hey there nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and we are back with another episode of Shadows over Mordheim. This is our series of Mordheim battle reports, and this is battle report number 4. It is a Wyrdstone hunt scenario that's fought between my two friends Iron Major as well as Brother Grimm. Iron Major is bringing Bugman Brewing Company, a Dwarf treasure hunters warband, while Brother Grimm is bringing the Peeple, Eataz, an Orcs and Goblins warband. So these two once again will be throwing it down in a Wyrdstone hunt scenario. If you want to see exactly what these warbands are bringing for this scenario, go ahead and pause and take a look at your own leisure. So with that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying times here.
Alright, so let's go talk about the scenario rules for this one. The scenario is called Wyrdstone Hunt. What ends up happening is that the objective is to capture as many Wyrdstone shards as you possibly can and survive into the end of the battle report. What ends up happening is that D3 plus 1 Wyrdstone shards end up being scattered all across the battlefield, and both groups, of course, are in 8-inch deployment zones right across from each other. Their goal is to grab the Wyrdstone shards, make it and survive the battle report, and then, try to drive off the other guy with a route. As always, all the survivors of the scenario earn 1 point of experience for surviving the battle report. Same thing with the winning gang leader, also earns an additional experience point as well. Plus, heroes earn 1 additional experience points for each enemy they put out of action as well. And also, any fighters that are carrying Wyrdstone shards by the end of the scenario, they also earn an additional bonus experience point. And that's pretty much making the scenario rules for this one. So the scenario rules over, let's go and talk about the battle plan real quick. So as you can see, my friends are playing on a 4x4 table. Iron Major is deployed on the near side of the table, while Brother Grimm is deployed on the far side of the table as well. And as you can see, both of them are in their deployment areas, and you can also see the 4 barrels that are scattered right there in the middle of the battlefield. Those 4 barrels represent the 4 Wyrdstone shards that both warbands will be fighting over. 2 of them are right in front of the church, in front of that standing stone pillar. One's in the ruins right in the middle of the battlefield, and one's on the far side of the right-hand side of the battlefield, right next to the pond. So with the battle plan over, let's go and talk about deployment real quick. So first off, our Wyrdstone shards number 1 and number 2. They're right next to the church gate right there, as well as next to that standing stone. So 2 of them are pretty close together. Wyrdstone shard number 3 is located right in the middle of the battlefield, in the middle of the ruins, which are between the 3 standing stones. So that's where the third one is located at. And finally, Wyrdstone shard number 4 is located next to the pond on the far right-hand side of the battlefield. So now that we're done talking about where the Wyrdstone shards are located at, let's go and talk about deployment for the Dwarves as well as for the Orcs and Goblins. Alright, so starting off with Iron Major's the Bugman Brewing Company. Over here on the left-hand side, we actually have one of the brothers, Roadsalker, who is a beardling, is equipped with a dwarf axe, as well as a shield. There's 2 of them right on the left-hand side. Next to him in the center is Joseph Bugman. He is a noble who's equipped with a dwarf axe, shield, as well as got the leader skill. And right next to him on the right-hand side, that is Snorri the Nosebiter, who is a troll slayer. He's equipped with twin dwarf axes. He's got the death witch ability, as well as slayer skills. And finally, on the right hand side, we have 2 henchmen. We have the brother Helheim, who's equipped with a dwarf crossbow and axe, as well as the brother Izmir, who's also armed with a crossbow as well as an axe as well. And then right behind them is Grim Burluxon. He's an engineer. He's got an axe, a handgun, as well as the expert weaponsmith skill. And that pretty much makes the deployment for the Bugman Brewing Company for this battle report. And all the way across the battlefield, we have the Peeple Eataz, which is Brother Grimm's warband. As you can see there, his warband's pretty much, organized into one giant group. Over there in the back on the left-hand side, that is Ugla the Blade, as well as Zappa the Snappa. They're both biggins. They both are packing swords, bows, as well as shields. Right in front of them are them Sneaky Gits, which are 2 goblins armed with spears, daggers. They also got the Animosity, not orcs, as well as runt skills. And right in front of them are the Mangalas, which are 3 cave squigs with a gob full of teeth with 2d6 random movement. They got the Minders, not orcs, and animals special rules as well. Over the right hand side, that is Baron Zamidi, that is an Orc Shaman. He's packing a knife as well as a bow. He's got the wizard skill, he's got the Clubba spell for him. Next to him on the right hand side, that is Papa Shango. He is an Orc boss. He's got light armor, shield, dagger, sword, bow, as well as a leader skill as well. And then right next to him on the right hand side, that is the War Boy, who's basically an Orc boy armor with a bow. He's also got the animosity skill. And then right in front of him are 3 goblins. Those are the Ludas. They're equipped with spears, bows, shields. They have animosity, networks, as well as run special abilities. And that pretty much makes the deployment for the People Eaters on this one. So with deployment over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 1, and both Iron Major and Brother Grimm roll off for initiative to see who will be going first. Alright, so that takes us directly to the top of turn number 1, and the Orcs and Goblins manage to get the initiative on this one. And as you can see in this photo, Brother Grimm just starts moving as quickly as he possibly can, trying to close the distance between the People Eaters as well as the Bugman Brewing Company. He is playing an Orcs Warband, so their tactics aren't really all that complicated, and he's trying to get them stuck in as quickly as he possibly can. So first of all, he starts off with the Manglas. Those guys actually move up a good handful of inches, I think 9 inches as well as 7 inches respectively, enough to clear the stone wall as well as the palisade of the near left-hand corner, making their way towards Wyrdstone shards number 1 as well as number 2. The Ludas as well as the Sneaky Gits as well as his 2 Biggins, Ugla the Blade as well as Zappa the Snappa. They move up as quick as they possibly can as well to cover the left hand side. Meanwhile on the right hand side, the Ludas march up their full movement allowance as well as the Baron Zamidi, Papa Shango, as well as the War Boy, moving as quick as they can towards that ruin there in the center of the battlefield. And that pretty much makes up the movement phase and recovery phase for this one. So here's a close-up of them Sneaky Gits on the left-hand side, as well as Ugla the Blade and Zappa the Snappa, moving up as quick as they possibly can towards the Wyrdstone shards on the left-hand side of the battlefield. And you can also see the 3 Manglas as well as they move quickly across the battlefield, trying to close a distance. And finally on the right hand side we have the Ludas as well as Baron Zamidi, Papa Shango, as well as the War Boy, moving as quick as they possibly can to the ruins in the center of the battlefield, so that way they can snap up Wyrdstone shard number 3. Because all every single member of this warband has pretty much advanced forward, there is no shooting, so we skip that, we skip combat, we go directly to the bottom turn number 1 for the Bugman Brewing Company. Alright, so that takes directly to the bottom of turn number 1 for the Dwarf Treasure Hunters on this one. So you can see here the Bugman Brewing Company starts moving as quick as they possibly can on the left hand side. The brothers Roadsalker, Joseph Bugman, as well as Snorri Nosebiter, march up 6 inches to the wall there on the left hand side, so that way they have a good overwatching position over Wyrdstone shard number 1. At the same time, Barim Burloxen also marches forward to the right hand side in front of the mill, so that way he has a good line of sight that he can shoot later on. As for the other 2 members, the brothers Ysmir and Helheim, they stay exactly where they're located at because they're firing crossbows, so they either move or shoot for those guys. Plus they have a good line of sight through the gaps of the ruined wall, either aiming for the squigs on the left hand side or even the goblins on the right hand side with the Ludas. So they pretty much just kind of stay where they're at. And that pretty much makes up the movement phase for the Dwarves. So here's a close-up of the brothers Roadsalker as well as Snorri Nosebiter and Joseph Bugman making their way to the wall, as well as Grim Borluxen on the right hand side. I do apologize for the blurriness of this photo. It looks like I was focusing on that smoke plume instead of the miniatures, so I do apologize for that one. And in the shooting phase, the brothers Helheim and Ysmir take aim and open fire on the 2 cave squigs, making their way directly towards Wyrdstone shard number 2. Manage to put stun results on both those guys, so both those guys go crashing face down to the ground and start bleeding out for the most part. And that pretty much makes it the shooting phase for the Dwarves. Since nobody's engaged in close combat, we skip the combat phase and we go directly to the top of turn number 2 for the Orcs and Goblins. Alright, so that takes directly to the top of turn number 2 for the Orcs and Goblins, and this photo is taken after both the recovery phase as well as the move phase. In the recovery phase, 2 of the squigs do turn face up to represent the fact that they're only knocked down because they managed to recover. At the same time though, he starts marching his forces with his goblins of the Sneaky Gits. Those guys move forward 8 inches, crossing over the wall and making their way to Wyrdstone shard number 1. At the same time, he also moves the Ugla the Blade as well as Zappa Snappa, but he only moves them up their normal movement allowance, so that way they can open fire with their bows directly into the dwarves who are shooting at them. Meanwhile, on the far right hand side though, all the Orcs and Goblins, they just march forward as quick as they can. The 3 goblins from the Ludas start making their way into the ruins with both Baron Zamidi as well as Papa Shango in tow, and at the same time you can see the War Boy on the right hand side also catching up for the rest of them. And that pretty much makes the move phase on this one. So here's a close-up of the recovery phase with the 2 squigs moving face up to represent that they're knocked down. At the same time, you can see the move phase while the squig number, the yellow squig there from the Manglas, he actually gets up to Wyrdstone shard number 2, manages to secure that one for himself. You can also see those Sneaky Gits also moving up as quick as they can, marching forward, and you can see Ugla the Blade as well as Zappa the Snappa taking cover position behind the wall, so that way they can open up with their bows. And here's a close-up of the Ludas, as well as Papa Shango, Baron Zamidi, as well as the Warboy, moving as quick as they can to secure Wyrdstone Shard number 3, which is located directly in the middle of the battlefield. So with the move phase over with, we go directly to the shooting phase. And the shooting phase, I believe it is Ugla the Blade that managed to put a stun result directly on one of the brothers' Roadsulkers. So because he takes an arrow to the chest and crashes face down to the ground, and he's currently bleeding out all over the place. And that pretty much makes the shooting phase for the Orcs and Goblins. Since no one's engaged in close combat, we skip the combat phase, and we go directly to the bottom of the turn number 2 for the Dwarves. Alright, so that takes us directly to the bottom of turn number 2 for the Dwarf Treasure Hunters, and a lot of movement taking place on the left-hand side. First of all, for the recovery, one of the brothers' Roadsulkers does turn face up to represent that he's knocked down. However, the other brother Roadsulker, as well as Joseph Bugman, as well as Snorri Nosebiter, they march across the wall directly into the stone walls in front of the church in order to secure Wyrdstone Shard number 1. Snorri Nosebiter, the Dwarf Slayer, managed to secure that one, while Joseph Bugman and one of the brothers Roadsulker move up in order to watch his left-hand flank. At the same time, the movement on the right-hand side for all the shooters, for the Thunderers, they don't move because they're firing crossbows. At the same time, Grim Borlaxon doesn't move either because he's operating a handgun, which means he can only move or shoot. He cannot do both. And that pretty much makes the move phase on this one. So here's a close-up of the brother Roadsulker, as well as Joseph Bugman and Snorri Nosebiter, moving as quick as they can in order to secure Wyrdstone Shard number 1. And there's a close-up of Grim Borlaxon, as well as the brothers Ysmir and Helheim, getting ready to open fire with their crossbows, as well as handgun, directly into the oncoming orcs. So the move phase over with, we go directly to the shooting phase. And unfortunately, the shooting phase, it was pretty lackluster for the Dwarves. Both the brothers Ysmir and Helheim missed their shots, and Grim Borlaxon only managed to put a knockdown result on one of the Ludas as well, and that was all he was able to do on that one. So that part was just absolutely tragic for the Dwarves. And since nobody's engaged in close combat, we do skip the combat phase, and we go directly to the top of turn number 3 for the Orcs and Goblins. Alright, so that takes us directly to the top of turn number 3 for the Orcs and Goblins. As you can see in this photo, a lot of dramatic movement takes place for the most part. The Orcs start engaging with their enemies as quick as they possibly can. First of all, the little squig hopper there on the right-hand side, the yellow one, he actually managed to secure one of the barrels of the Wyrdstone shards. However, because there are no goblins within 6 inches of him, he does kind of go random, and he just kind of bounces all over the place because he's out of control at this point. So as you can see there, he kind of bounces back to the right-hand side back corner with the barrel just kind of hopping around because he's no longer being watched by different goblins. So he starts taking off as well. At the same time, one of the Ludas also does exactly the same thing, grabs a barrel of Wyrd shards from the middle of the center of the battlefield. He also moves back 8 inches as quick as he can because it looks like Brother Grimm's trying to get him towards that squig to get him back under control for the most part. Meanwhile, on the left-hand side, the 2 members of the Sneaky Gits, they charge directly into Joseph Bugman as well as one of the members of Clan Roadsulker. At the same time, the other 2 cave squigs, the blue and the pink one, they do charge directly into Snorri Nosebiter and engage him in close combat as well. Ugla the Blade as well as Zappa the Snappa, they move up their normal allowance so that way they can do some shooting if they need to. Meanwhile, the other members of the Ludas, they start marching forward towards Grim Borlaxon, running forward 8 inches. At the same time, Baron Zamidi and Papa Shango do exactly the same thing, starting to close the distance in order to engage the Dwarves. Very last thing Brother Grimm decides to do is to activate the Warboy, and he actually moves them 8 inches over to the right-hand side, going after Wyrdstone Shard number 4, which is right in front of the pond. And that pretty much makes it the move phase, as well as the recovery phase for the Orcs and Goblins. So here's a close-up of the recovery as well as the movement phases for the Orcs and Goblins. As you can see, them Sneaky Gits charged directly into the brother Roadsulker as well as Joseph Bugman, engaging him in close combat. At the same time, the blue and pink, Bluey and Pinky of the Manglas, they charge directly into Snorri Nosebiter as well. As you can see here, both Papa Shango as well as Baron Zamidi, they move up as quick as they possibly can in order to engage the Dwarves. Same thing with the 2 Ludas, heading directly towards Grim Borlaxon. And there's a close-up of Ugla the Blade as well as Zappa the Snappa moving up just a normal allowance so that way they can do some shooting with their bows. Just to tell you right now, for the shooting phase, not much really happens with these guys, so they don't accomplish to manage to hit anything with their bows. So that part was kind of sad for my friend Brother Grimm. And here's a close-up of Yellowy jumping as quickly as he possibly can because he's out of control with a Wyrdstone shard, and you can see one of the Ludas trying to catch him as quickly as possible in order to get that little Mangler squig in tow. And finally, here's a close-up of the Warboy moving as quick as he possibly can in order to secure that final Wyrdstone shard number 4, which is located on the right-hand side. So like I said before, Ugla the Blade as well as Zappa the Snappa, they missed their shot, so we skip the shooting phase, and with that we go directly to the combat phase. And the combat phase does not go very well for my buddy Iron Major. First of all, Snorri the Norsebiter gets put out of action by Bluey as well as Pinky of the Mangalas. Those two squigs just kind of chomp on him for the most part, puts him directly out of action. But the good news is, though, he does make a full recovery, so not much stress is involved on that one. However, the really sad part, though, was the fight between Josef Bugman as well as one of the Sneaky Gits just ended up being a standoff. Neither guy can manage to hit each other or cause wounds. For my buddy Iron Major, it was just rolling a bunch of ones for his attacks. Even when he with his hatred of orcs, when he used that special roll, nothing really came up from that one. And finally, on the left hand side, the member of Clan Roadsulker did manage to hit and wound the Sneaky Git, but he only managed to put a knockdown results because that he's laying face up, and he's still pretty deadly. He can still be a threat all intents and purposes, so not much came out for combat. And that pretty much ends the turn for the Dwarf treasure for the Orcs and Goblins. So with that, we go directly to the bottom of turn number 3 for the Dwarf Treasure Hunters, and this photo is taken after the recovery phase as well as the movement phase. And as you can see, not much movement is really going on for the Dwarves at this point. The only thing that Iron Major does, he activates the one remaining brother Roadsulker and actually has him charge directly into Bluey, the Mangler Squig, in order to engage him in close combat as well. He also takes another one of the guys from the Clan Roadsulker. He has him disengaged from the Sneaky Git and also him charged directly into Pinky as well. So because of that, both of those Mangler Squigs are now engaged in close combat with Dwarf Warriors. At the same time, he keeps the members of Clan Ysmir and Clan Helheim directly with their ass so that they can do some more shooting. At the same time, Grim Borlexson also marches 6 inches to the right hand side, looking like he's trying to intercept the War Boy before he gets that final weird shard. And that pretty much makes the move phase on this one. So here's a close-up of the brothers Helheim and brothers Ysmir just standing their ground ready to shoot. Same thing with brother Grim Borlexson moving to the right-hand side as well. I do apologize for the blurriness of this photo. It looks like my camera focused on the top of the little mill there instead of on the miniatures. So I do apologize for that mistake. And there's a close-up between Josef Bugman as well as the last member of the Sneaky Gits, as well as the brothers Roadsulker engaging Bluey and Pinky of the Manglas as well. Unfortunately, the shooting phase was a wash. We go directly to the combat phase, and as you can see in this photo, the combat phase also ended up being a wash as well. Josef Bugman did put a knockdown result on the Sneaky Git, but that was really about it. The Clan Roadsulker Dwarf Warriors just kind of failed their attacks against Bluey and Pinky, and at the same time, Bluey and Pinky also just filled the rolls in their attacks against the members of Clan Roadsulker, so not much really happened for the most part between these two groups, so that part was extremely sad for Iron Major. So with that, that takes us directly to top of turn number 4 for the Orcs and Goblins, and this photo is taken after the recovery phase as well as the movement phase, and as you can see in this photo, a lot of dramatic stuff ended up happening. First of all, 2 members of the Ludas, the 2 goblins, charge directly into Grim Borlexson, so he's engaged in close combat. At the same time, Uga the Blade as well as Zappa the Snappa, Papa Shango, and Baron Zamidi, all 4 orcs go charging directly into the Dwarf Warriors on the left-hand side, engaging those guys in close combat. And while that's happening, the War Boy also runs up 8 inches directly into the Wyrdstone shard number 4, and managed to secure the very last of the Wyrdstone shards, which is pretty sad for Brother Grimm. At the same time, that's not for Brother Grimm, for Iron Major. At the same time, the Mangler Squig, as well as the Yellowy, as well as the other Luda who had a Wyrdstone shard, they start making their way directly back towards their deployment area or secure the Wyrdstone shards they managed to capture. So here's a close-up of the melee that is occurring here on the left-hand side of the battlefield. As you can see, Baron Zamidi as well as the 2 Sneaky Gits engage directly into Josef Bugman. Uga the Blade as well as Bluey engage one of the Roadsulker fight beardlings on the left-hand side. Same thing with Zappa the Snappa as well as Papa Shango engaging the other one on the right-hand side with Pinky. So that can't be good. And here's a close-up of the 2 Ludas engaging directly into close combat with Grim Borlexson. So now that engineer is facing down 2 angry goblins armed with spears. And here's a close-up of the War Boy managed to secure Wyrdstone shard number 4 as well, netting all pretty much all the Wyrdstone shards in the Orcs and Goblins possessions. And finally, here's a close-up of Yellowy, the Mangler Squig, as well as the one of the Ludas, both of them carrying Wyrdstone shards, and then both kind of organized together, heading back to the middle of their deployment zones. So with the move phase over with, we skip shooting because everybody's engaged in close combat, and with that, we go directly to the combat phase. As you see in this photo, it ended up being a massive bloodbath for all involved. Pretty much the orcs pretty much just dominate at this point, putting Josef Bugman as well as the 2 brothers from Clan Roadsulker directly out of action. The good news that is all 3 of those fighters do make full recoveries, so that part's kind of nice, but at the same time though, pretty much ends up being a devastating loss for the Dwarf Treasure Hunters at this point. Meanwhile, on the far right-hand side of the battlefield, the 2 Ludas engage against Grim Borlexson. Grim Borlexson manages to cause a knockdown result on one of the Ludas, but that pretty much ends up it for the most part with close combat. So things are definitely not looking very good for the Dwarves at this point. As this point of the game that my friend Iron Mage decides to call the game because he realizes he cannot win, and with that, the Orcs and Goblins manage to secure victory, and Brother Grimm wins his very first game of Mordheim. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do for this one. We're going to go directly to the post game because this game is now officially over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Alright, first of all, I'll start with the Bugman Brewing Company. First of all, they've actually had a lot of guys go out of action on this one. Joseph Bugman, Snorri Nosebiter, as well as the two brothers of Clan Roadsulker. Luckily for Iron Mage, though, all 4 dwarves made full recoveries, so no harm, no foul at this point. For advancements, actually quite a bit of these dwarves did advance forward. The reason why is because they actually had an underdog result of over 50 points difference between the two warbands, so they got additional experience point for all these guys, so that part's kind of nice. So Bryn Borlickson, he actually learns the Pistolier skill, so makes him even deadlier with shooting 2 pistols at the same time. Also, the brothers Roadsulker earn +1 to their strength, so now they're deadlier in close combat, and the brothers Helheim and brothers Izmir both earn +1 to the ballistic skills, making them better at shooting as well. During the exploration portion of the campaign, they did find 2 shards of Wyrdstone, earning them 50 gold pieces, and with those 50 gold crowns, they decided to purchase light armor for Joseph Bugman, as well as a brace of pistols for Grim Burlockson, making him even deadlier when it comes to the shooting phase. The Bugman Brewing Company's new record now is at 0 wins as well as 1 loss, and their new Warband rating is at 85 points. And finally, let's talk about the Peeple Eataz. For injuries, not a single member of the Peeple Eataz was injured, so we skipped that portion. There actually was quite a few advancements for this gang as well. Baron Zamidi, he actually earned +1 to his wounds, so now because of that, the Orc Shaman is now packing 2 wounds as well. Ugla the Blade also earned +1 to his strength, so he's a little bit tougher in close combat now. And Zappa the Snapple earned the Well-Ard skill, which means he gets +1 to his armor saves because he's just that hardcore, which is pretty awesome. The War Boy also earned +1 to his ballistic skill, same thing with the Ludas, earning +1 to their weapon skill, ballistic skill as well. During the exploration phase, they managed to secure all 4 shards that they were able to get from the battlefield, as well as managed to scavenge up 2 more shards, and altogether that brought them up to 80 gold pieces. At the same time, they also found a straggler whom they interrogated, and with that, that gives them a +1 die roll for the next exploration, for the next battle report they do as well. For the merchant phase, they recruited 2 more goblin warriors. One goblin warrior is called the Stavistab is his name. He's equipped with a Squig Prodder, so now he's a member of the Warband as well. And they also hired another goblin warrior who they equipped with Madcap Mushrooms as well as a ball and chain, making him into a fanatic, and that guy is called the Shroomhead. So both those guys end up joining up with the Warband as well. Their new record now is at 1 win as well as 0 losses, and their new Warband rating is at 148 points. So that's going to do it for this week, guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's going to do it for this week, guys. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out and stay classy.